Hello, everyone. For those who don't know me, I am Zan, and this is day 4 of the hunting logs. So, today I wanted to talk more in depth about the boost bracer. I'm pretty sure I talked about them a little, but um, today at least I managed to see and think about more about the boost bracers and what they can involve. And I whiffed that first attack, but oh well. So, boost bracers. They look like, in general, some type of switch skill like in Monster Hunter Rise, Sunbreak, and possibly like Valor skills from old gen. I don't know too much about the Valor skills since I've obviously never played an old gen. I've mentioned it many times in my other videos. Um, but but I do know that Valor skills, switch up their playstyle and can really add more to your weapon. So, boost bracers, I imagine, to be some sort of how do I put this? I wanna guess that it's going to be some mix of the two, even if I don't know what Valor skills were like. So far, I think it was 4 for you is when we saw Gagmazios and Dalmador. I could be wrong. Um, uh, if I am, feel free to correct me. Wow. Oh, uh-huh. I'm so dead. Anyways, um, I at least have hands-on experience with switch skills. I do find them very interesting and have a lot of potential. I haven't messed around with it too much, um, but since I have at least some experience, I can at least have something to refer to, so I can have something at least vaguely resemble what the old gen version was like, even if old gen was more simplistic and less flexible uh, compared to the switch skills. So, um, what we saw first was the Great Sword, so we might as well start with that. Um, it boost bracers in general are described as a mechanism that turns on and gives a major bonus to movement and attacks. We saw that um, in the trailer, of course, in small bits, and it was described a bit more in like a Twitter post or something. I haven't quite read the post in its entirety, but I know it exists. It's out there. Um, and so, with that said, um, I hope that it is very similar to Switch skills, in which that once you have the boost bracer, will be given some sort of extra menu to then equip as optional moves to have when you turn on that the boost bracer mode. Since I very much think it is, well, no, I know that it is some type of tool that can be activated mid-hunt. And I know for a fact that does not require focus mode, because in the trailer, you can see that the boost bracer turns on, and well, for starters, you don't see any HUD. That might just be because it's turned off, but it is turned off actually. I have a lot of experience with the HUD being turned off, and even right now, most of my HUD is turned off. Um, I could turn off the rest of it, the health bars, the sharpness, the... That hit me? That was weird. I need to be careful. If I faint one more time, that's in the end there. So anyways, Might as well sharpen. I've been doing a lot of damage. So, let's see. Anyways, I have experience with the HUDs turned on and off. Right now, most of mine is turned off. I could even turn off the health bars and damage numbers and actually go fairly well in this hunt itself. Since I've done it with the HUD turned off before, and it's not like a huge issue. Okay, Angina, sure. Anyways, so with all that being said, I can tell that the boost bracer doesn't require focus mode, because when you are in focus mode, you take a certain stance, and you can see that the hunter was not in that stance. He was in a regular sword stance that did not have the focus mode turned on. So with that, I know for certain that the boost bracer does not require focus. For the greatsword, you can see it greatly improving movement during combat and ending with a charged finisher of some kind. I'm curious to see what other ways it interacts with the greatsword moveset. I'm hoping that it's more than just what we've seen. So hopefully, let's see. Hopefully there's more to it than just what we saw. I'm pretty sure there will be. I'm hoping that there will be options to the entire skill in general. Like I mentioned, that's the hope anyways. Aside from that, I wanted to kind of give my thoughts on the other weapons. Obviously, we got Greatsword, and I'm hoping that it'll have an extra bonus to your charged attacks. Since it already has a very heavy Devil May Cry sort of feel to them. And the comparison has already been well made. So, I'd really also like to see like a montage of all that happening. Of how it looks and how it feels once it does come out. So hopefully with some other skills, it could have old gen valor skills as switch weapon skills, I imagine. Don't really know how they interact with the gameplay too much. But I see it with potential. Alright, we are just going to pretend that didn't happen. Let's see, where was I? Talking about the boost bracers and hopefully it being some kind of combination iteration of the old gen Valor skills and new gen Rise Sunbreak switch skills mechanic. Holy moly, I'm so bad at this. I can't believe it. I've been getting hit so much. If I don't make it through this one either, I think I'll just cut it short with 2 unfinished hunts. That'd be so funny. Anyways, I'd like to see the boost bracer interact a lot with the greatsword's charge attacks, because to me that is the most interesting part of the weapon, and part of it was shown in the trailer. And so with the other weapons, let's just move on to a different weapon. I need to focus somehow. I guess I've talked about it a bit of the hammer already in a different video, where I kind of imagine it being like a sort of rocket hammer. Shoo! Whoops, excuse me. And so we had a rocket hammer in the Monster Hunter World as like an additional weapon. I believe it came from the weapon contest, I'm not super certain about that. And so I very much liked the design, and I think that that concept is very much going to be a sort of inspiration for the Boost Bracer combat. And so I believe it's going to do a lot of spinning attacks while dashing around and so on of the like. And then end with a charged, I want to say kind of a haymaker, but it's just this attack right here where you charge up the attack and then hit hard, but with the bonus charge and rocket power of the Boost Bracer itself. So that's how I imagine the hammer to be like. How they go about it, can't say for sure, but I do hope it'll be like a rocket-powered hammer. A different weapon, let's go with the sword and shield. This one's a bit tricky because I can't really think too much of it. However, it might improve upon its perfect rushes, since that is its best attack, and might get some form of perfect dodge, not like a 1-to-1, but kind of like how in the trailer the greatsword got this some sort of like offhand parry dodge mechanic. Even though I'm a dodge mechanic, some kind of like second-hand offset is what I wanted to say. And so I believe the sword and shield will get some sort of offhand perfect dodge, where it'll be able to move much more quickly and attack at the same time in a sort of evasion motion. I imagine something very similar happens with the bow as well. It'll get some sort of mimicry of a perfect dodge while attacking, and then the Boost Bracer giving another sort of combo or bonus to its big finisher, so that the sword and shield would be the perfect rush, and the bow would be its one of its like massive arrow strikes, since it has the big arrow, which I think would be incredibly cool. I think it'd be really cool if it had some sort of explosion. So let's I'm going to make a reference to anime. There's one known as Fate's Day Night. In this, there is an archer, as well as several other like classes of anime characters, and the archer charges up a shot very similarly to how the archer in this game does it. However, what the anime does instead of the game is that once it shoots a sort of charged attack, it ends with an explosion, not so much a piercing effect. I would really like it if the Boost Bracer gave the weapon some sort of finisher with an explosion type attack with its charged arrow. I think that would be incredibly cinematic and cool, in my opinion. And to sort of continue with the reference of Fate's Day Night for any of those who know it, there is also whatchamacallit, trying to think of the reference right now. The insect glaive. In the anime, there's a lancer, someone who also uses a pole-like weapon in close quarters. That's how I've always wanted the insect glaive to be, a sort of close-range, fast-paced weapon, and I believe with the Boost Bracer can really give it that potential come to light. Oh my goodness. Anyways, so let's see. So, in the anime, there is a Lancer character, like I mentioned, who has a close range, fast-paced attacks. If I have time, I might even put like a little GIF in the video. And so, I'd really like it if the Boost Bracer sort of gave it a close range rush attack, almost as if it had its own perfect rush, but doing constant spinning and close range strikes with it. And another option it can have, because I'd like it to be like switch skills and give you options and be able to switch in and out of them. Another one would be just like in the anime, he charges his lance weapon and aims it at the enemy, of course, and throws it at them. Now he has this sort of magical effect where it'll like start homing onto the enemy, making it pretty much near impossible to dodge. In this, it would be really cool that if you had, let's say, your colors, your buffs of the insect glaive and with the boost bracer together, instead of a spiraling elemental slash sort of effect, it'd be really cool if you were able to go into a sort of stance and charge your attack and throw the entire insect glaive at the enemy, much like as if you were doing a heavy piercing shot of the bow. And so that was not well done. Neither was that. So something like that would be very cool, and it is somewhat unrealistic for the hunter to let go of his weapon. So to let this happen, because you have the 3 buffs of the insect with the boost bracer when doing this attack, it'd be really cool if the insect itself attached to the glaive and brought it back, as well as giving it a half sort of tracer on it. So if a monster moves, it'll like start curving its direction without giving it a complete homing, like one of its prior. I was gonna say prior, but that doesn't make sense. Like one of the bow options, since it has homing arrows, but to give the insect glaive a slight homing to it, not completely. It shouldn't do anything like 360 related. It should just be able to slightly curve in the direction of the monster, in a sort of almost 90-degree cone in front of you, so that it could at least make it slightly easier to hit while being realistic to the fact that the insect holding the glaive can like turn it towards the monster. But yeah, I think that'd be a very cool and flashy attack to throw the insect glaive at the monster. If you don't like big flashy attacks, I kind of wanted to at least have some sort of perfect rush of its own, much faster than the Sword and Shield version. It'd be nice if it like spun the entire glaive around in a sort of circle, not necessarily spiraling, but just sort of attacking everywhere around it, in a sort of semi-sphere. I guess a similarity would be like in Naruto, there's like a character named Neji who does spirals around himself, but it covers him in more of a sphere rather than an actual like circle. And so I think maybe something like that, similar with the glaive, where it starts attacking around itself in all directions. There's probably better references or comparisons to what I'm trying to say, but can't think of that right now. I want to keep talking about all the weapons. So, another weapon. Let's go with the dual blades. This one is very tricky because it already has massive movement. And since the boost bracer is something specific that improves upon said movement, um, I sort of imagine it, instead of being given more movement options already, on top of its already movement heavy playstyle, I can see it being given sort of charged finishers. Imagine like the way a samurai sort of cuts across an enemy in an anime, and the screen like flashes black, showing that it like cut through the enemy. I imagine something like that, where the hunter will take a stance and dash through the monster, and no way that hit me. Anyways, this hunt might also be a bust, so I'll try and be quick and finish what I'm about all the weapons. So I imagine it taking a stance and giving a big dash towards the enemy and ending on the other side of said monster that it hits. Kind of like its focus strike, where it spins on the monster and goes all the way across it. I imagine a quick sort of dash through the monster, where it could then end up on the other side, doing a big strike all at once through the monster in a sort of anime-like finisher. I can't really see it getting much else. I don't know what its switch skills are like in Rise, so they're likely going to take inspiration from that and give it more movement options. Maybe some sort of aerial jump style, where it could start doing attacks in the air. Oops. That would be interesting as well. But I personally can't think much of an already heavy movement-based weapon already. So we'll have to see how they go with it. I can't believe I missed that moon twice. So, let's see, a different weapon. Let's go with the bowgun. A light bowgun is already getting a sort of running gun ability. It'll be able to go into special ammo mode and then start attacking the monster while unloading said ammo. I think that's really cool, and it extends is already decent mobility option. It already had movement, but not that much, especially since it doesn't have any sort of it doesn't have like perfect dodge, perfect block, offset. It doesn't have any of those things given to it. So I have talked about that in a previous video. I think the light bowgun is the most ignored weapon out of all of them because of this. Especially since I think bowguns are getting, you know, the short end of the stick in terms of creativity, because I don't like the way ammo and weapons are being handled for the bowguns. I think it's very uncreative for the most part. I think the light bowgun, at the very least, is half decent because it is fun to like run around and shoot a weapon very fast and have a sort of machine gun option. And now with the boost bracer, it can now have more movement options on top of it. That is very cool, and at least has that going for it. However, the heavy bowgun, even though it is a weapon I like a lot in World, I don't like the way it's been put together this time around. I've never liked the shield in the heavy bowgun, so I can't enjoy too much of it because I like a more movement heavy playstyle with that bowgun. You can still do it technically, but also, like I mentioned before, the way weapons are handled in this game is much more simple and not to my liking, so I haven't um, used them too much. Even though it is my most used weapon, I really tried to make them work, but even though they are strong weapons, um, can't say I like them too much due to their oversimplification of playstyle. Still strong weapons though. They can sometimes be fun, but I can only use them a couple times now, and then switch back to hammer. Anyways, I ranted too much about that. Boost Bracer. What could it get in terms of that? Hard to say. I did watch a video talking about it, and they mentioned the switch skills in Rise Sunbreak. Since I don't know too much about the skills, he showed a little bit of a showcase about them in his video. So I think those switch skills make great options, since I do know it has a sort of evasion shot where it'll take a sort of counter stance, take a shot at the monster, and then move, doing a sort of semi-dash out of the way. I think that is a great option, as well as his other switch skills in the game. And those would be very good, cool things to add. It'd be nice if it added something special to the special ammos as well. Similarly to the light bowgun, where they were able to have light bowgun was able to get its movement options. However, I hope for a more stanced, a stationary position, but I do want some kind of bonus to be given to the special ammos. It'd be cool to like see them improve the bond. That was a massive shadow. Let's see. A few other weapons I haven't mentioned are the transformed ones and the hunting horn. I think the hunting horn can have a sort of charged melody. Like if you have 3 songs prepared and you get the boost bracer ready, it'd be really cool if you could charge up the horn and do all 3 songs at the same time. And this will at the same time let out a I want to say a what's it called, what are those bubbles called? I'm just gonna call them bubbles. I know there's more to it than just bubble, but it'd be cool. It'll do all 3 songs at the same time in a sort of flashy attack, while also setting down a bubble or 2 when you do the strike. That'll be very cool, because I think the hunting horn lacks the flashiness of other weapons. Hopefully with this, it'll have the ability to have like more songs as well, because right now it's some of its best songs, Melody of Life, Offset, and what's the other one? There was a not an Offset, but there is a big sound wave attack you can do. I don't quite remember the name of it, but it's one of its more flashier moves. But those 3 are restricted from having more than one on a single weapon, and I think that's not so great. So with these boost bracers, maybe it'll give them the options and flexibility to have more than one. I think it needs it. Personally, since these monsters already do so much, and other weapons I feel like were given more comparatively. Although the hunting horn as is now is a very fun weapon. And all things considered, very fun to use. that's all I could really think of for the hunting horn. Otherwise, I imagine it getting movement options similar to the boost bracer of the greatsword, being able to like swing around in sort of short dashes to attack. Um, I should talk about the transforming weapons like the charge blade. Um, I think what the boost bracer should do is boost the base form of the charge blade. So in its sword and shield stance, not too much of the the axe mode. I think that would be better in general, in my opinion. Uh, because there's more things to expand upon in the sword and shield mode. Like let's say you do it could improve point guards to where if you have the boost bracer and you do a point guard, it'll add a more explosive attack to it where it since point guards already sort of do a small like recoil to the monster. I think it's possible to stun monsters based on the type of sword charge blade you have. I think an expansion on that would be cool, and I think personally it should expand on the charged sword mode and add more explosiveness to it. That would be really cool. And then a third thing I wanted to do is actually similar to SAED and the the like, because in the old gen, I know that it has this sort of elemental release slash where once it has all these files and it is ready to attack, it when you do your attack, it releases a sort of elemental sword that comes out of the charge blade. Hence the name Charge Blade is now charged up. It extends a sort of sword from its elemental power and slashes at the enemy. The boost bracer could bring that back. To me, that would be really cool, if anything. Um, let's go right away to the switch axe. Um, most of the weapon is delegated to its full release slash, and hopefully the boost bracer extends upon more of its axe mode, less of its sword mode, since a lot of people are just sort of spamming the FRS and looping it constantly. Hopefully it'll have a more, um, I want to say aggressive, but more combat oriented playstyle, since it's not I don't personally find it too fun spamming the FRS since of it being extremely powerful. So hopefully something that involves the X mode more to more involve it with the weapon. Um, just pretty much that. It already has an offset and a counter, so it has good defensive options. But giving it just more movement and aggressiveness to its axe form would be nice. And that's sort of all I could really think about. I know a bit of its switch skills in Rise. I don't know all of them. I haven't seen it in its entirety, but letting it jump around and attack the monster sort of midair and doing sort of, flashy attacks would be a great idea, although you don't have um what are they called? Spirit birds to do that with. A sort of dash similar to those sort of things with the boost bracer would be cool. And so something like that would be cool, extending upon its axe mode. And then let's see what else is there. I feel like I'm forgetting a weapon. Let's see, great sword, dual blades, sword and shield, hammer, hunting horn, bow guns, bow. Um, there's definitely more. The long sword. I I didn't talk too much about that. I did talk about the insect glaive. That's 10. I need to talk about the longsword. What else is there? Um, the lance and gun lance. Those are the last two, as well as the longsword. Let me quickly talk about those right now. The gun lance looks like it's going to get a sort of counter heavy playstyle, where with the boost bracer active, it can do a sort of guard, a perfect guard, kind of like a guard point, but it'll start swinging as in a counter after it can successfully block. And these attacks are more than just it swinging at the enemy afterwards, after a block. I think it'd be cool because the video I watched mentioned it could involve its shelling. So during its counter strikes, it'll not only hit the monster but release shelling as it's swinging with the help of the boost bracer, and I think that is a really cool idea. And I hope it does do something of the sort with it. And then maybe another bonus to the its wyvern shelling, the big heavy strike. I'm personally a huge fan of big explosions, so maybe something with that would be cool. Maybe even a movement option with it, like it has in Rise Sunbreak, but I don't know for sure. I do like its guard counters option. I think that would be very cool for it. For the lance though, hard to imagine what it'll do besides it's already guard counter heavy play style. It could give it more mobility, but it's hard to imagine how. It'd be really cool to have a sort of boost bracer turbo to its lance charge to where it's running around. Um, it does happen to be carrying the lance with its left hand, so if you have the boost bracer active, it could sort of rocket propel that attack more, and I think that would be really cool. Um, and similar counters of the sort, like if you have the boost bracer on and you perfect guard and attack, you have the chance for a guard counter, of course. But with the boost bracer on, maybe it'll be a heavier strike, maybe give you more motion forward and of something like that. Um, and then the longsword. Personally, I'm not a huge fan of the longsword. Um, Samurai and that sort of aesthetic is cool, but it's I feel like it's only in the game because Monster Hunter in general is a Japanese game. Um, Hence why Rise Sunbreak was so Japanese aesthetically heavy. Um, it is a decent aesthetic. I don't think it's one that should be leaned too much on in Monster Hunter, since it doesn't really base itself in that sort of culture. Although Rise Sunbreak did just fine with it, as a one-off side game thing. Um, I'm okay with it being sort of a side game because Monster Hunter is much more um, barbaric in its aesthetic. I don't know how to explain it properly, but I like the way it is now. Um, Gosh, I'm getting sidetracked. Um, the longsword, how will it get a boost bracer? I imagine it being similar again to the greatsword, where it can attack and dash around more. Um, since I also imagine the bow and the hunting horn getting something similar, as well as the sword and shield. I imagine all those getting some sort of dash attacks, moving around and attacking. And the longsword maybe might be getting a new attack involving its gauges and boost bracer, where it can, actually commit to something since they got rid of a lot of its commitment from its prior um, finishers. So we will have to see what they decide to do with that. But I imagine it being involved in that way. Um, And I believe that's all the weapons now. I sort of had to rush through the last few, but I got at least the idea of what I thought about out there. So, if you've made it to the end, thanks a lot to just listening to me rant. Not sure why you'd um what you call it put yourself through all that, especially with the not best performance I had today on these hunts, especially the first one. We're not going to talk about it though. But thanks again for anyone who's made it to the end, and I'll catch you guys tomorrow. Thank you and goodbye.